My name is Hannah Smith. I'm a health educator at Hamilton County Public Health, working with WeTHRIVE Communities, and I'm joined today with Jenny Lohmann, who works for Hamilton County Recycling and Solid Waste District, and she's going to give us a presentation on how we can save food and also save some money for our grocery bills. So without further ado, here's Jenny.
All right, thanks, Hannah, and I'd like to thank the Hamilton County Public Health Department as well for providing webinars for the WeTHRIVE communities. Again, my name is Jenny Lohmann. I work for Hamilton County Recycling and Solid Waste District. At our district here in Hamilton County, it's our goal to reduce as much as possible from going into the landfill. And we're really passionate about the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So why are we doing a webinar on saving food and saving money? Well, nobody likes throwing away food, and everyone could use a little money. Besides that, food is the number one thing going into the landfill, and it is our mission. There's our title slide. Let's see if we can get it to go on to the next slide. All right, that's the one I was looking for. So you can see, according to the pie chart on the right, can't see the slides. Ooh, not a good thing. But you can hear me. Okay, I'll just keep on going. So the slide on the right is, and we will have this as a recording later on that you can listen to and see, but it won't be live. So the chart on the right shows the EPA's solid municipal waste stream in the United States. So on average, we're throwing over 21% of food into the landfill. And as you can see on that chart, that's not the only thing we throw away that could be reused or recycled or even composted. The chart on the left shows all the food that's landfilled, about 97%, while only about 3% is composted. At the county, we also teach seminars that teach the basics of backyard composting, and if we could reach every resident in Hamilton County and they started backyard composting, we could save at least a quarter of what's going into our local landfill, and that's saving space in the landfill. And compost also is a great way to build your soil, make it healthy, and reduce the greenhouse gas methane. Right. So the agenda for today includes why we should stop wasting food, how you can save money when you do that, what are some of the best practices, where can you find additional resources, and when can you start, and spread the word. The U.S. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, as well as the United States Department of Agriculture, got together in 2013 and announced a goal of reducing food waste 50% by 2030. If you haven't heard this or seen the strawberry commercial put out by Save the Food, every year 40% of all food grown in the United States is thrown out. Over 30% of that is food that's been wasted in either restaurants or other food service areas as well as our homes. About 10% is in food service and about 20% in our homes. As a matter of fact, the grocers organization tells us that for every 20 to 25 cents, out of every dollar that we spend at the grocery store, 20 to 25 cents is actually never used, so we're throwing it out. And when you eat at a restaurant, even if you do take home the leftovers, about 50% of those are going to end up in the garbage can. So we don't even, when we intend to eat our leftovers, we don't always do that either. Our next slide shows calories wasted per person per day in the United States. Wasted food is defined as edible food after harvest. This doesn't even include food that's been left on a farmer's field. That's not considered waste as it rots and it's turned back into soil through composting. So think about the people who could use this food, this 40% that we're throwing away, a perfectly edible, healthy, nutritious food. In our community, 1 in 6 people are food insecure. That means at some point in the year, they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And this fits into the pathway of health. In addition, by 2050, there will be 9 billion people in the world, and we do not have enough natural resources to feed 9 billion people the way that we are growing and eating and wasting food today. This next chart shows us what foods we're throwing away and the percentages. As you can see, the main culprits are perishable foods. They're the most wasted. The next slide I was going to show is a video. It's called Love Letter to Food. It's a wonderful 3-minute video that explains many of the issues related to food waste and why it's an important topic. It's a great overview, and I hope that you can take the time to pull it up later on YouTube.
Dear food. Dear fruit.
I know you already know this, but I need you.
You bring my family together.
You sweeten my celebrations.
You make my deals.
You satisfy my senses.
And you keep me alive.
Trabaja muy duro para que sea posible.
Spending your life growing in the field,
the factory,
or the sea.
I try to be good to you.
I give you half of my land.
2/3 of the water I consume.
1/10 of my energy.
And 1/6 of my workforce.
But I want to apologize.
Because after all that, you deserve to be eaten.
But instead, I throw away almost half of you. Enough calories to feed 150 million people.
From harvest to home, I waste half of all fruits, vegetables, seafood, and 1/3 of all grains.
I'm better at meat and dairy, wasting only 20%.
But this is a double waste, because essentially, I'm also dumping all the grain or grass the animals ate to make the muscle or milk.
And I waste you in many ways.
For example, sometimes I leave you in a field to die because it costs more to harvest you than you're worth.
Other times, I mistakenly damage, contaminate, or spill you.
Or I reject you when you're imperfect.
Because I judge by appearance.
But mostly I squander you in supermarkets, restaurants, and homes.
When you are so close to being eaten.
I offer too much of you.
So I take too much, and I can't finish you.
Or I can't sell all of you before you go bad.
At home, I forget about you.
Or I cook too much, and I don't know how to store you.
Or maybe I just don't like leftovers.
Part of the problem is that, on average, I spend a smaller fraction of my household budget on you than in any other country or any time in history.
And my spending is spread out over days and weeks, so I don't notice the cost of wasting you.
But my lack of noticing adds up. I devote 4 California's worth of land
and more water than all non-agricultural consumption combined.
Just to grow food that doesn't get eaten.
This is not your fault. It's mine.
Only I can buy less of you and eat more of what I do buy.
Only I can accept your imperfections.
Realize that best before doesn't mean use by.
And store you better.
In general, I need to learn more about you.
Because this is about us and our relationship.
Yo te ayudo a crecer.
And then I eat you.
Anything else is a waste.
So it's not just the food that's being wasted, but you also need to consider the land, the water, the labor, the energy that's also being wasted. And the slide that I'm showing right now gives you the address for the love letter to food. Next slide, consider the tomato. So tomatoes, as you know, are very highly perishable, and anybody that lives in Ohio and has eaten a tomato that's been harvested locally knows how delicious they are. And you do not put them in the refrigerator. It totally changes their chemistry, and there's nothing like a homegrown tomato. But this is just one example of something that we waste a lot of. And on average in the United States, that's 21 tomatoes that each of us waste every year. So think about the water that's wasted just growing one tomato. It actually takes 3.3 gallons of water to grow a tomato. And if we each waste 31 tomatoes, that's over 69 gallons of water wasted. And if you multiply that by 250 million, how many gallons of water have we wasted? About 25% of all water used in agriculture goes wasted because of that 40% of food we waste. The next slide shows the EPA's food recovery hierarchy. It's an inverted pyramid with the most preferred to the least preferred. At the very top is source reduction, and that's what we're calling prevention. Wasted food prevention is the number one thing we can do. After we prevent wasting food, we can help feed hungry people. Below that is feeding animals. So there are some foods that might go bad, so we can't give them, we're not going to eat them ourselves, so we might be able to feed them to animals. And fruit and vegetable scraps, we can compost in our backyards, as well as coffee grounds and tea bags and eggshells. You can also use some of those scraps for industrial uses. And then the very last thing we're doing is landfilling, which is what we do here in our area. Incineration is not happening in Hamilton County. That's in different parts of the nation, however, it does. So we can start saving money now just by practicing some common sense tips, at home mostly. So the next part of this webinar will focus on how to save money and what are the best practices to do so. What you're viewing here was taken from the EPA's website, Food Too Good to Waste, and it is a smart shopping list. So what you want to do is create a menu, so plan your meals, and write out that shopping list before you go to the store. Even before you write out that shopping list, look in your refrigerator, your freezer, in your pantry. What do you already have? If you know that you have 4 baked potatoes and you were going to have baked potatoes with one of your meals, then you don't have to go out and buy more potatoes and let the other ones go to sprout. So that's one thing. Just shop your refrigerator, pantry, and freezer first. You'll save money and food by not overbuying, and you'll be using things before they can go bad. The next slide shows a worksheet that I found at choosemyplate.gov. This helps us, and it's actually interactive on the web, so you can type in your menu for the week. So you can say, okay, I'm going to have this for breakfast on Sunday. You know, Sunday our meals are typically a little nicer than they are during the work week. Lunch, are you going to dine out? Are you packing? Dinner, and then, of course, snacks and notes notes such as, oh, going out with Bev on Saturday, don't need to make dinner, just are you going to use those leftovers for one of your lunches during the week? So you create the list of meals. Don't forget to plan for that dining out. And you know you're going to be busy some night. If you have an exercise class or you take the kids to practice, you can just think about cooking large batches so you can heat and eat on other nights. Also, make plans for those leftovers. So at my house, for instance, every week we have corn. And corn is not corn on the cob, as you might think. Corn is capital C, capital O, capital R, capital N, clean out the refrigerator night. So that's what we do. We just grab what we can get and eat it up. And I also have other friends that practice Fifi. I love that one. It's what I like to tell my kids, find it and fix it. Get rid of all those leftovers. So the next slide is describing how to not overbuy, and you can do that by buying loose produce. So instead of buying a whole bag of yellow onions, and you really only needed 2, if you're going to let those onions rot, you're not really saving any money by buying in bulk. So farmers markets are a great place to buy only what you need. And not only that, but they're local and in season, and local in season food always tastes better as it's available at its freshest peak time. So just because also one of the things that's a real issue and a lot of reason we have waste in the produce is because people have come to expect perfect looking produce without a blemish. I typically now go into stores and look for the fruits that are oftentimes discounted because they're not beautiful anymore. There's called imperfect fruits and vegetables, and you can often find them at discounts. And I actually got these tomatoes that you can see in this picture at a farmer's market because they were imperfect and they were a lot cheaper than the normal ones. And honestly, they taste just as good and they're just as nutritious. So what does a portion look like? When you plan your meals, you should think about portions. Typically, if you ever read a label, you'll see it'll list there how many portions are expected out of that. And buying your family too much leads to a lot of food waste, plate waste, and also overeating. And that's one reason 72% of men and 64% of women in the United States are overweight or obese. That's another factor leading to chronic illnesses in adults as well as children. The National Institute of Health has great information on portioning. That's where I got this picture that shows the plate size from 20 years ago versus the plate size today. And you know it if you are of a certain age, how much bigger bagels and cookies have gotten, for instance, supersizing, even though it's, you think you're getting a deal because it's not that much more expensive. It's really wasteful, and we don't need all that food anyway. So there's a link on this that goes to the National Institute of Health, and you can actually take their quiz on what a portion looks like. It's pretty mind-boggling, and it also shows how many calories you have to burn to get from the old size portion to the new size portion. Next, we have Smart Prep. That's a great tip. On when you get home from the grocery store, you unload your groceries and start preparing your food right away. This cuts down on waste. Now, I come from a traditional family. I stayed home with the kids for a while, and so I do most of the cooking. I do almost all the grocery shopping. So for those of you that have young kids, train them now. Get them in the kitchen with you. Teach them how to cut. If they're involved in the process, you can teach them the good knife skills. You can teach them how to actually hull a strawberry instead of cutting off the top third, how to use all the pieces of the celery. These are skills that they used to teach in home ec, but honestly, I was in college prep when home ec was around, so I never got home ec. I learned this stuff from my mom. But now that we have working parents and people just don't have time to teach their children, this is a great time to teach them those skills, since home ec is not taught in schools anymore. So, and also, if they see what you have bought at the grocery store and they're actually helping you prep it for the week, they know what's in the refrigerator. They know what they can go snack on. And I know at my house, if I cut up some melon or wash oranges and throw them in a bowl in the refrigerator, they're gonna go in and snack on those. They're gonna get those celery sticks I have floating in ice water in my fridge that I've already prepped for them. They're more likely to eat those healthy snacks if they're grab and go. And maybe during the week, if they know everything is prepped and prepared for the saute or the stir fry you have planned later in the week, maybe your child or your spouse can get dinner started, and that'll leave you with a little free time. Oops. Okay. And we're done here. Okay. Another tip for saving food is using clear containers. It's good to invest in something you can see through. You put that in the refrigerator, it won't get lost at the back. Other people can see what's inside of it. And even in your freezer, it's always a good idea to stick a date and a label on your frozen items to be sure that people know what it is and you can easily identify it and pull it out for a quick meal. This next slide shows storage, and we have a great fruit and vegetable guide on our website that I'll show you later, and it shows and explains how you should store perishable produce. It's not all-inclusive, but there are other resources out there that we'll talk about later. This slide is showing some herbs and the proper way to store them. On the right is cilantro. It's any herb. You should unwrap it, take the bands off of it, whether it's a rubber band or a twist tie, stick the stems in a glass of water, and then cover the herb in plastic and put it in the refrigerator. I used to have soggy cilantro in 3 days, and now my cilantro is lasting me about 10 days. The basil, however, is one herb you never want to put in the refrigerator. It browns it. But you do want to stick the stems in water, in a glass, and just keep it on your kitchen counter until you're ready to use it. Another great tip is to have a shelf in your refrigerator or even just a bin and put a sign that says, "Eat this first." This is great for the apple that has the bruise on it in the 3-pound bag that you bought, and as well as any leftovers you want your family to eat right away, or anything that's getting ready to go pretty quickly, so you can remember to eat that and it doesn't, again, start to rot or get lost at the back of the refrigerator. Also, you'll notice that the milk is on the inside of the refrigerator. Foods that are highly perishable, that spoil quickly, should be kept on the interior of the refrigerator, not on the door. Doors typically are 15 degrees warmer than the rest of the refrigerator due to the opening and closing of the refrigerator all day. Another thing that I do, especially in the summertime, I bring my reusable grocery bags with me. I bring a cooler bag. So I throw my milk and my dairy, meats, and other highly perishable items in a cooler bag that at grocery so I can transport it on my way home. And another thing that keeps things cool, another way to keep things from going bad quickly is to keep them refrigerated. For instance, if you're having a bowl of cereal, you know, when I was growing up, I had brothers that would go through a whole box of cereal after school and a whole gallon of milk. And, you know, that's fine to leave it on the table while they're chowing down. But if you don't use that much milk and you need to keep it longer, it's always best to put it in the refrigerator to keep it cold. Otherwise, it's going to spoil quicker. The proper temperature in the refrigerator should be between 37 and 40 degrees, and the freezer should be anywhere from -2 to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. If you notice things are spoiling faster than they typically do, it might be time to repair your refrigerator. I didn't know that until I had to replace my refrigerator, and he told me it had been getting warm for a while. I was just now noticing it. And then after he said that, I thought, you know, things were going bad at a quicker rate. So that's one clue on your refrigerator temperature. Use your freezer. If you think you can't eat it all before it goes bad, I also keep handy some frozen fruits and vegetables. It's an easy way to create a quick option for dinner. Extra meals for busy nights I keep in the freezer. If I do takeout and I don't eat it all, but I know that I'm not going to be in the mood for it for a couple days, I'll throw it in my freezer. And then when I do pull it out a week later, it's sort of a happy dance for me because I'm getting to eat out again. My kids think I'm obsessed. They call me the freezer queen. And they now realize, now that they are spending their own money on groceries, that the freezer is our friend. Another thing that's really great for freezing, if you don't go through a whole loaf of bread before it can get stale or moldy, just throw half of it in the freezer, or, you know, what you're going to use in the next few days. It freezes really well. Now, you do have some produce that's starting to show its age. Doesn't mean you have to throw it out. I often will take peppers that are starting to look a little shrivelly and roast them in the oven. It brings out wonderful flavor in them. The bananas, of course, you can use for a smoothie, or the banana nut bread. You know, the brown. In South America, they don't even eat the bananas till they're totally brown. Also, don't let brown skin on a banana scare you. A lot of people think they're not good after that. But one way you can keep your bananas fresh for longer is if they're at the ripeness that you like, you can throw them in the refrigerator and they'll last a few more days at that ripeness that you like, even though the skin will turn brown because the cold causes that. So just get creative. Try or invent new recipes. Fried rice, frittatas, soups, stews. Saute up those vegetables. You don't even need to eat it right now. You can always just cool it down and then throw it in the freezer for another meal, another day. So, over the years, restaurant portions have gotten huge. It's pretty common today to get more on your plate than we really should eat. A lot of diet plans, the first thing they tell you is if you're going to go out to eat, one great tip is just to bring a to-go container and put half of your food right in the to-go container so you're not tempted to eat it. So don't leave your leftovers on your plate. Ask for a takeout container or bring your own. Or if you're with a friend, share your meal. You're going to save a lot of money that way, and you'll save a lot of calories. This next slide shows bananas, a tomato, and an apple, and they all have one thing in common. Actually, they have more than one thing in common. They're all considered fruits, even though that's kind of weird to me about a tomato. But the other thing that they have in common is that they all let off a natural gas, which is called ethylene. It's perfectly normal, but it does cause other fruits and vegetables to ripen quicker. That's if you have some hard peaches that you want to eat tomorrow, throw them in a brown bag with that banana or an apple, and they will ripen a lot quicker. But otherwise, keep them separate from the other produce. Your bananas, if you want to keep them from ripening as quickly, you can do a couple things. You can either put a little plastic wrap right on the stem, or you can pull them apart and separate them. Again, like I said, once they're at the ripeness you like, you can put them in the refrigerator and they'll last a little bit longer at that ripeness. Tomatoes, you want to keep those away from the other produce, and apples. Also, another thing that you wouldn't think that I learned while studying up on this, that we all know that potatoes and onions should be stored in a dark, cool place. But what I didn't know before was that they should never be stored together, because potatoes are another ethylene-produced vegetable, and those will make your onions rot quicker. So, do dates on foods freak you out? And if they do, you know what? You're not alone. So many people are anxious shoppers, and if it looks like it's going to be, expired in a couple of days, they'll pitch it. But honestly, 20% of food waste is linked to date labeling confusion. There's some laws in Congress right now that are trying to promote a way of standardizing date labeling so that the confusion can stop. If you see sell by on an item, that is just a manufacturer's date. It tells the store how long they can display that product on their shelf. It has nothing to do with food safety or expiration. Milk is a great example. So if it says, say June 21st, if I go into the store and I see milk that's on sale that says June 21st, which is tomorrow, I'm going to buy it because I know that if that milk has been freshly kept, properly stored in a refrigerator, that milk can last for another week past date. And if I'll drink it within that week, I'm saving myself some money. Use by dates stamps is if that's used by the manufacturer just for peak quality, not safety. Best by date labeling is used by manufacturers for optimal flavor and quality. The only federal law regulating date stamps is baby formula. Oftentimes, you might have opened something that's past date and it smells fine. I've done that with cottage cheese. And as long as it's been stored properly, your nose knows in a lot of instances. Canned goods, for instance, as you'll see in the picture, that is just an inventory control by the manufacturer. As long as the can has been stored properly, hasn't been dinged or bloated, you don't see any visible holes in it, most likely that canned good will still be good. Just use common sense, and oftentimes in the old days there were never any expiration dates, but of course safety is always number one. When in doubt, throw it out. Okay, so you have too much of a good thing. You can share the bounty. You can, if you know how, you can can. It's a great skill. I learned it from my sister who married a farmer. Freezing, dehydrating, those are all ways to save items that you have too much of. Another thing I will often do is take a plate over to my elderly neighbor. They love it when I have too much food and I bring them a plate. Also, I might even bring in something that I have too much of into the break room at work, and it magically disappears. It's pretty amazing when you share with your coworkers how quickly things can disappear. So now we're on to where to find more resources. Of course, our website's a great resource, Hamilton County Recycles with an S.org. And we have a whole page that is dedicated to preventing wasted food. If you click on our website and scroll down a little bit, and I wish I could show you live, but it's not. We're not capable of doing that today. It'll say preventing wasted food. You click on that, and then scroll down, and it gives all kinds of tips and tricks like I've already discussed today, as well as the fruit and vegetable storage guide that will show you how to keep certain items, whether they should be in the refrigerator, how to store them to make them last longer. You can actually download that storage guide on our website at hamiltoncountyrecycles.org. We have also formed a partnership with Save the Food. Save the Food is a public service that has been provided by the Ad Council as well as the National Defense Resource Council, and it's free media. They do a public service announcement every year. They have beautiful graphics. You might have seen some of the ones that we have provided. We have them at a couple of grocery stores on the carts that promote saving the food. And they have a great website, savethefood.com. And let me see, next slide is savethefood.com. If you go there, they have wonderful resources, tips on how to store food, how to use up food that you wouldn't typically use, like the rind of a cheese or the stem of cilantro, how to make chocolate mousse with avocado. I want somebody to do that and bring that into me. Also, another website that is not on this slide but is a great resource is through the EPA, and it is called Food Too Good to Waste. And there are a lot of the different templates that I've shown, one that I showed in the meal planner, and there's all kinds of great ideas on Food Too Good to Waste website. And the one thing that they do have is a challenge, taking the food waste challenge. Most people do not understand or believe that they are wasting food. The one way you can get people to understand and understand yourself how much you actually throw out is to take the challenge. So you measure your wasted food, and once you do that, you say, oh my gosh, I really just didn't realize how much money I'm throwing into the garbage can. Other resources besides Save the Food, HamiltonCountyRecycles.org, and Food Too Good to Waste, you can also find on our website, and that is still tasty.com. So you can just type in anything on that, and it will tell you how to store it and how good it can be, how long it will be good for. The Food Keeper app for your smartphone, you can have it right there. That is put out by the government, and a quick way to see if something's still good. And Eat by Date is another great website, chock full of information about saving food. And that is the end of the presentation. I'm sorry that those of you that are listening in couldn't see the slides, but thank you for listening in. Any questions?
Yes, thank you, Jenny, for all that valuable information. Again, we do apologize for the lack of slides. We'll be sending those out, and they'll also be on our website. If we have any questions now, you can please type them in the chat box, and we'll be happy to address them.
Oh, it says the video link is provided, so we can see it now.
You can see the love letter to food.
If you would like to have a presentation for your organization, we are missing a slide. Please email hamilton-co.org. I do lunch and learns if you want a presentation. Basically, any group that has 12 or more, I am happy to come out, and please email savethefood@hamilton-co.org. These presentations are free of charge if you're within Hamilton County, whether you're a business, a community group, interested residents. I'm happy to come out and present. Anyone else that needs any services from Hamilton County, go to our website, Hamilton County Recycling and Solid Waste District, hamiltoncountyrecycles.org. We're happy to help you out with that. Any issues you might have about reducing waste. Thanks. Any other questions before we sign out? Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening in, and get started today. Don't waste that food.
Thanks, everyone. Be checking in later with the slides.